Hi, everybody. I'm here with Marc Trowbridge, my opponent, one of the guys I have to thank a lot for learning about rising eagles, Austerlitz. That's what we're talking about here. And yeah, we're playing a special variant of this called the Tsar's Grand Attack. I'm playing as the Coalition. Marc is playing as you know who. Marc, why don't you introduce yourself a bit? Some people already know
Yeah,
you, I'm
sure.
sure.
Hello, everyone. I'm sabotaging Marc's channel for a short while. um, my name's Marc. I've been playing these Hexasim games for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years, and started in the COVID era during lockdown, playtesting Fallen Eagles. Fallen Eagles 2, in fact, I think it was. And anyway, I can't get enough of this system. It's a really good system. There's 4 games in the series now, with a 5th in development for release either end of this year or beginning of next year. That's allow. But Austerlitz is probably, in my opinion, the best of the 4 because of, well, a lot of reasons which we can get into later. But one of the things I've never done with this game was play this strategic variant scenario. There's quite a few of them, actually. And Marc and I agreed that we'd give this a go, see how it worked out. It changes the face of the traditional historical Austerlitz massively. And what a battle it's been so far. And we're only probably, are we halfway through? More than halfway through? But anyway, no spoilers. Back to you, Marc.
Yeah, thanks, Marc. Yeah, listen, Marc introduced me to this and spanked me a couple of times. We switched sides. I was the uh, coalition the first time and lasted until about midday before we decided to throw in the towel. I learned quite a few things about how cavalry works, how you pin down infantry with other infantry to make the cavalry more effective, and it was quite an eye-opener. Now, when we switched sides, though, Marc was on the defensive, and at that point in time, I learned a lot of defensive techniques to counteract those sorts of things. So we both agreed that I have now graduated from cadet school to first lieutenant junior grade or something. So Marc wanted to play this one. It's really interesting because what happens is, in this case, the coalition, which was semi playing a defensive game, in the real battle, this time they're just going to go on an all-out attack and try to take down Napoleon quickly before the afternoon comes. So I'm trying that as the coalition, and Marc is defending against that. So that's basically what's going on, and we're going to get into some of the initial discussions, how this transpires from about 6 a.m. till the end of the 8 a.m. turn here in this video. All right, so we look forward to going through this. Let me cut to the chase right now. Okay, so we're back here. The Tsar's Grand Attack card is up. Marc's going to explain this card, this variant, and compare it to the historical gameplay or the historical attack. Marc, what do you want to share with the
Yeah,
Tsar's
well,
attack here?
the original historical Austerlitz is, as any fans of the period will know, is probably, it's considered as Napoleon's greatest victory. And what he did, using the best of terrain, the best of his forces, the best of the inclement weather conditions, he managed to invite an attack on his right flank. You'll see a map of this whole battlefield area sooner rather than later. But for now, we want to talk about this variant of the battle. So he invites the Allied coalition forces in to attack his supposedly weakened right flank around the twin villages of Telnitz and Sokolnitz. And it worked. The Allies sensed there was a weakness on the French right and sensed the opportunity to send Napoleon packing, committed a lot of forces there, and he then delivered the huge coup de grace by attacking in the centre and just destroying the Allied army so quickly. Obviously, there was huge losses on both sides, but it ended that particular war of the coalition. Now, in this scenario, you can see that strategic card there. That card that Marc's put on the map there is one of 6, I think there is. So there's like 6 different variants. And what it allows the Allies to do is not deploy historically. It allows them to deploy any of their corps in any of the initial starting locations, which are usually fixed. So where the Russian Guard might have to be in the reserve in the historical battle, now they can start on the front line, ready to go. And the French player, of course, doesn't know where the Allies are going to start because the initial setup is all hidden. Everything's masked, and that's what gives the Allies their advantage in this scenario. They can really pile it on very, very quickly. So where Napoleon draws in the historical scenario on the Allied forces onto his weakened right flank, now the Allies are starting with multiple hugely powerful corps possibly on that side, which we can just smash through his genuinely weakened right. But there's a price to pay for this. For the Allies having the advantage, the coalition player must win a victory by, so what does it say here? The coalition player does not win with a French sudden death victory condition, he loses the game, which means in essence that the French have to have captured or retained 9 of the victory flag locations on the battlefield by the end of the 1 p.m. turn, which we'll get into in detail. You don't need to worry too much about that now, but the Allies have a great opportunity to attack. The French are going to start probably on the defensive, and that's where we begin. Back to you, Marc.
Okay. Well, I never trust Marc to go on the defensive. He likes to attack. But it's very interesting here how the Allies can go ahead and try to punch through on this flank. You're going to see, let me see if I can change the, where is that? Hold on, let me pause this. Okay, I've switched to this screenshot. This shows the hidden orders. What's really fascinating about this game is that it's really command driven. There's, of course, tactical elements. It's a tactical game, but the real essence of the beauty of this, which I've never seen a system quite like this, is how you plot your orders. You can plot dummy orders. You can see, for example, I've plotted here the 4th Corps. Let me use the 4th Corps and the Guard here have a goal of the crossroads. You can't see it, but the crossroads is underneath here, and it's a victory location. The 3rd Corps is trying to take this town. It's a victory location. The right wing is defending, along with the 5th Corps cavalry and some other corps up here, but I've got 5 corps coming over this way. So the idea is ideally to take 5 victory condition areas, including the 3 towns, a castle, the crossroads, and also his supply hex. Very ambitious, but without great ambition, you cannot accomplish great deeds or something like that. I can't attribute that to Alexander. So my plan, now most of these guys here, you don't see this because this is the orders card, but most of my guys start up here. These are the setup areas right here. Okay. Basically up in this area here, like that, and they have to progress from these areas towards their objectives. You know, they have to basically head closer or not get further away from their orders. That's really critical. So setting up the orders is quite an art form. Marc's really good at this. I'm still sort of a little bit dumb about it. I put my orders directly on where I want to go, but ideally you want to put it past where you want to go to give you some flexibility. I'm learning this. But in this particular orders, you could say I put them exactly where they're supposed to go, which is good enough to get the victory hexes, so I'm not too worried about it. Plus, you also have to do it within 15 hexes of your leader, so you have to make it a legal order placement as well.
Yeah, you can't place an order like way off miles in the rear of your enemy supplies. It's got to be within 15 hexes. And one hex is what? 250 meters, I think, in this game. So 4 hexes is 1 kilometer.
Yeah, this map
So
encompasses a vast area. The Battle
huge.
of
Yeah.
was a very large scale battle of, and anyway, so that's kind of my plan to smash him. Uh, and now let's take a look at Mark's orders. Let me change this, and he can discuss his orders for his defense.
All right. Thanks for that, Mark. Yeah, what we're looking at there is when we begin this game, Mark can see all of these counters, but they'll all be masked. It won't tell him what it says on the counter. He just knows that there's a marker there. That's all he can see. What you're seeing now is the actual hidden information that the French commander would see. And what this shows is the starting from left to right, that 3 corps at the bottom left there is Davout's corps, and he starts severely weakened. He's only got maybe a quarter to a third of his corps on the battlefield, and he's about to get whacked by 3 enemy coalition corps. Now I'm expecting this to happen because that's what makes this scenario different. So I have to try and react. So my initial orders, there's a pink marker that says RC above Davout. Now that pink marker there is the reserve cavalry corps. That's Murat. Everyone knows who Murat is. He's the flamboyant Tzar. He's the cavalry leader extraordinaire, and he is going to move down from the north to that position there. That's as far as I can get him under with the current orders, with the limitations of the current order system. The Imperial Guard are going to move into the village on their flank. You can see them there. Thanks, Mark. And then the other 4 corps, I've aggressively given them orders to attack into the Allied positions. And I really started to think about this, and I thought, do I go defensive with these guys or not? Well, truth is, if I want to stay defensive, I just don't move them. So that's an option. But having geographical orders into the enemy positions gives me the ability to still attack if I want to. So I can still defend in their starting positions, or I can attack, depending on what the enemy positions are, what he does, what Mark does. So that's why it looks so aggressive. And that's how I start the battle.
Right, thanks, Mark. And it's important for you to realize, although Mark can see this, I don't know what this is. It's just flipped over and masked. It could be Sult's Corps, where he's put the orders here. Maybe he's decided to move them back. I have no idea what's going on here. And that's what is amazing about this system, in my view, is that you can, especially for this Battle of Austerlitz, there's other battles in the series, as Mark mentioned. We have Quatre-Bras, of course, Waterloo, and they're coming out with a new one, Eylau. Did I say that right, Mark?
Yeah, he did.
Eylau. Okay, and that's a Russian-French battle on the far side of Prussia during the winter. But back to this. So you're seeing here that this is, I can see his orders card, but all this stuff is flipped over. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's dummy. Same
Yeah.
for him. Same
It
for
just
him.
has a pictorial view of a French flag on it. That's what Mark would actually see. Now, the interesting thing that we haven't told you yet is that for both Mark's orders and the French orders, we can't change them from the beginning of this game, which has multiple turns. Each turn is 1 hour. Starts at 6 a.m.
Mhm.
We can't even consider changing the orders until 10 a.m., which is 4 turns in. So we're kind of stuck with the decisions that we make right at the beginning, which is great because it gives you that limitation of, bear in mind there's heavy fog everywhere, no one can really see what's going on. You've got a battle plan, you've made a battle plan, and you're forced to kind of stick with it.
Yeah, it's not just fog of war in the game. There was literally real fog all over the place.
That's right.
And so the visibility gradually grows from 2 hexes to 5 hexes.
Yeah.
And this will then surprisingly reveal formations that you didn't anticipate
Mm.
to come here. For example, I was quite surprised and annoyed by this corps, this cavalry corps coming over here. I didn't want to see that. That was a very important move and a really good one Mark put on me there. I had to adapt to that the entire game, basically.
But
So,
interestingly, yeah. Now we've explained what our initial battle plans are, because that's what these are. This is our battle plans. So Marx is very aggressive, coming in on the left, having a strong centre, and kind of holding on his right. And mine is to reinforce my rear with the Murat's cavalry, and everywhere else either defend or have the option to attack. And I moved the Imperial Guard into a very, very central position so they could go anywhere that they needed. And then this battle begins in a strange way because the Allies get to do a lot of stuff and the French do not. And it simulates the fog of war, the how would you describe it? What is it?
well, the first 2 hours, basically, the Allies get to do a number of activations. An activation is basically one of the corps, all of its units can then move a certain way. Now, each corps at this point is represented mostly by a real commander and two dummy commanders. So on the map, these orders are represented then by the actual units with dummy markers as well. So it's like a double dummy system.
Mm.
But in the first 2 hours, if I explained this correctly, uh, the Allies get to move 10 or 15 times or something before the French can really react very much to that at
The
all.
French have limited reaction. Only Davout can do anything. He gets two activations. Davout on the right of the French line, the left as you're looking at it.
Right here, let
So,
me mark it. There, this is
yeah,
Davout again.
he gets to react twice to the Allies. I think activating 11 times, something
That's
like
it.
that.
It's 11 times. So
But
you're
those
gonna
11 times, bear in mind, there's a lot of that is moving into positions. So there's not a great deal of attacking goes on in those first few turns where the Allies can move. They're moving into position. Can they surprise the French? Can they get between two French corps to divide them? There's all sorts of options that the Allied players got, and that's what we're about to get onto next.
That's right. So let me move on to one of those positions now. Okay, so resuming the conversation, here's the situation at the beginning of the 8 a.m. turn after I've done my 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. maneuvers. And you can see here what I've done. Hopefully, it may be not that visible, but I've got this corps moving on Telnitz. And one of the things that Mark pointed out that I should mention is I actually started with the guard. Mark wasn't expecting to see the guard in the front of the line, but I wanted to really smash them up. So this is the best formation I have with very high morale. They stand and fight. And as you'll see as we go forward, they stand and die too. But they're going to go in first. Now, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go in first. This is one of my better formations here. But as it turned out, I did. Then I had this sort of big core, but not a very high quality core. It has a lot of artillery, though. It was going to try to sneak up, and it actually was able to set up some secret pontoons via a loophole in the rules and get some stuff across the river. But that's okay. We figure that's just part of the game. So those were my major moves. This was a defensive move that I made look very, very strong with my right wing here. Now, let me point out that you can see that I have a number of units here on the map. These have been deployed already, and so now Mark knows exactly what's there. He realized, wow, those guards aren't dummies, those are real. Over here, though, you'll see that the cavalry corps has not yet been deployed. So you're seeing here one of the dummy commanders I mentioned earlier, and then the real one is here. Okay. Soult, this is Mark's Soult 4th Corps. There's one of his markers. There's one of his other markers. One of those is real. One of them's Memorex. One of them's not. And so My part of the game here is to try to guess which thing's real, which thing's not. You also can send out dummy commanders as scouts to try to trigger other
Yeah.
commanders on the other side to flip over. My guess was, though, given the dire circumstances that Mark knew that he was in, because he does have at least the intelligence that Alexander, aka Mark, but Alexander, is going to do this massive attack. Apparently, at least the French knew that was going to happen. So my guess was this was the real Soult here. And I think I was right. I can't remember for sure. Okay. So anyway, that was my plan. These guys are moving up and will probably, I think I was planning to attack in there to cut off this road. I didn't want Mark coming up this road like this. And these guys were to cavalry screen guys coming from this town across there. I'm starting to change. I should change colors. So guys coming across there and there to keep him away from victory hexes that I didn't want him to threaten. So that's kind of where I was at the start of the 8 a.m. turn. Mark, you want to talk about your situation?
Yeah, my situation is dire. No, it starts off right in the center of the battlefield there. You've got a few French units in a village called Cabelnets, and they start pre-deployed there. And that's like 3 infantry regiments, I think, from memory, facing all those red and green enemy units that have suddenly appeared throughout the fog. And I had no idea whether he was going to be aggressive or defensive there. But I thought they were going to get clobbered. So I was very, very keen for the next turn to come along so I could activate their boss, which is Soult, which was indeed the marker that Mark thought it would be, in the village called Puntovitz, just up the road. And they do get deployed in time to confront that corps. Elsewhere, the only other formation I've got deployed is Davout, bottom left of the map that you're looking at. And all I did there was I was able to do a couple of defensive moves to occupy some what I hoped was key terrain. So they're occupying villages, a castle, some high ground, but there's very limited numbers of them, and they're up against the Russian Guards and 2 other Allied corps, and I think I'm about to get whacked.
The other thing is Mark had some reinforcements for Davout coming in, but as a scenario penalty, they have to add an extra +1 to get in. So they're very hard to get the reinforcements in a timely fashion to halt this massive attack. But remember, though, I've got to hold on to everything else at the same time I gain enough victory locations by 1 p.m., the end of 1 p.m., that he doesn't get enough back. And so you can imagine if I've embellished my force to go to the southern part of the map, there's going to be some weaknesses at the top part of the map, which won't come into play immediately at this stage because Mark will be scrambling around to a certain extent trying to cover for that. Okay. So
Very
anything
true.
else you want to say on this page, Mark?
Oh, that's good.
Oh.
Okay, and this is a few activations later on. What's happened here is Soult has managed to deploy between those villages of Cabelnets and Puntovitz, and his corps is huge, which is good for the French. They weren't all able to get into position. That's why they're spread. Some are still north of the river, the Goldback River, as you can see, but there's a fairly strong defensive force there. Yeah. And Mark then countered that with moving his 5th Cavalry Corps up quite close to the river. And
I've close.
I had to then activate Duroc's Grenadier Division, which Mark's just about to highlight for me. Yeah, they were here. They all advanced to the river line and pushed back some of those 5th Cavalry Corps units, although they haven't been able to cross as yet. But the key was the Allies seized the initiative on this turn. At the beginning of every game turn, bear in mind there's quite limited amount of turns. There are lots of activations, but a limited amount of turns. Right. And the initiative is 2d6, and whoever scores the lowest gets to go first. Sometimes there's a modifier on those rolls. but Marc won, so was able to seize the initiative. So I was always going to be reacting to what he was doing. And this is the situation here. So he hasn't come at me yet where I'm weakest. He's come at me to pin me in the centre, to stop me reinforcing, or hopefully he's thinking to stop me reinforcing my weakened flank. But he's done that very well. My guys are stuck there for the time being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Mark. Yeah, I was trying to make sure that this town didn't become like a channel for you to just run through. The
Yeah.
interesting thing about this game is you can see these towns. Now, the artwork is quite stylized on this, and it's quite pretty, I think. Here's another town hex over here. And sometimes, though, you get a little bit confused as to what's a town or what's not a town. Or is this a steep slope or a regular slope? You kind of have to look around to make sure that you interpret it correctly. But, there's a lot of other grievances I can have on less attractive maps, so I'm not complaining about that. But you do have to remember that there's no zones of control that you can exert inside a town. So even if I'm adjacent to the town here, he can pile on through. So I have to actually take the town, at least part of it, to stop him cold. And so there would, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, be some kind of fighting going on over here.
Well, it's about to get dirty, isn't it? The next few
Yes.
activations, Marc actually pulls off some very impressive moves, and the training wheels, I know, are now firmly off. Because he makes me look like a fool. And how he does that, does that is quite interesting to watch. I'll let you move on to the next screenshot of what happened.
All right. Let's take a look. Let me pause that. Okay, so I've moved on to the next activation. This is actually at the end of the turn, really. So all the activations have occurred by now. And I thank Marc for congratulating me here. I think what he was referring to was this core. I told you I had a weak but massive core right here. What is that? 2 core, 3. I can't remember the fourth core. Okay.
Isn't it?
So I was able to go up here, and one of the things you can do is voluntarily deploy to give yourself some free space. So because I voluntarily deployed from right here or someplace like that, you're able to set up, there's certain restrictions, but within 4 hexes, and there's no terrain restrictions. So I was able to sneak across some artillery. Normally artillery can't cross streams in this game, but I was able to sneak some across. Okay. Now you can see up here, though, Marc has already deployed some of Murat's advanced cavalry. You see those guys? I don't know if you can tell, but they have a speed of 8. And they're already itching to come charging down here and mess up my attack. And I hadn't even started the attack yet. I'm finally within range of shooting here. I've got some artillery, one of the big batteries that comes with this, again, the 4th Corps. The guard is set up. They're well within range to attack these bridges in the next turn.
But more Bagration has already started throwing the French out of Kabelnitz, hasn't he?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I had an attack and routed some guys here, so I was quite pleased with that. It doesn't seem to matter whatever game of this Rising Eagles, Austerlitz, whatever we play, Sult's core gets hammered no matter what. They're right in the thick of it no matter what, and they have to take it on the chops and deal out damage at the same time. They have a big job to play. The other thing that was really annoying to me was you can see Napoleon has already stuck his nose out from his breakfast table. And
he came charging in because he could see there was going to be a problem on his right flank, and even his centre was looking under threat. And what positioning Napoleon there allows the French to do is that Napoleon has a direct command ability, as do all army commanders, but Napoleon is very good at it. And what it allows him to do is that when he activates, he can directly command 3 stacks of troops with an order to go anywhere and do anything that they want, which is very, very powerful. That could be 3 cavalry charges, it could be 3 artillery attacks, it could be 3 infantry attacks, and
It's
it's
all
easy
within a
that with
range of 6 of his guys.
within 6 hexes of Napoleon could then do that, which kind of gives them an extra free activation.
With 3, because his command rating's 3, right, Mark? He can do 3 stacks, complete stacks, to move
That's right.
anywhere and attack anywhere they want. It's hugely powerful.
Now the Allies get to do that as well with a few of their commanders, but they're not quite as powerful as Napoleon.
Yeah, I was looking on here, Mark. I think Kutuzov, who's my best commander, hadn't activated yet. But when I saw this guy, I was like, well, that's going to make me commit Kutuzov over here. So eventually he'll be getting that direction. One of the things Mark does more in a more timely fashion than I've quite mastered is figuring out when to use a very valuable activation to activate those commanders, or to stack them on units that are activated and then they kind of tag along. I guess their horses get dragged along by the troops. I don't know. So he gets his guys moving faster than I do, and I don't plan that as well as he does. So there's going to be a lot going on next turn. As you can see, I'm going to be attacking here. He's going to be counterattacking here. And we haven't even talked about what's going on the northern end of the board yet, which will come into play later. But
we were curtailed right at this point because the 8 AM turn only lasted for 10 activations. 5 on each, 5 for the French, 5 for the Allies, and then it randomly comes to an end. You can't forecast when it's going to come to an end. It happens based on die rolls, and it finishes very, very early. So there's very few of the formations. Bear in mind, each of your formations can theoretically be activated twice every turn, and every turn is 1 game hour. So that allows for each formation to move twice an hour, move or attack.
Right, theoretically, but then if the turn ends, it's a double turn end system. Some of the brilliant mechanisms this guy's come up with, the designer Walter. If ASL, I'm not going to get into it too much. If Advanced Squad Leader had this command system, it would be such a better game. But getting back to this, we've got. I did an analysis. I remember I was like, "Hey, these turns aren't lasting long enough." Remember, Mark? I was freaking out, doing all these calculations. Wrong. Okay, so finally I got it right, and I figured out that on average or something, I'll have to look at the numbers. I'll probably do a quick video on that at some point, but it was about, on average, a total of 11 activations total for both sides is about the 50-50 break point. So actually 5 to 6 turns is the average, but because of the wide bell curve, this could be 2 turns or it could be 12, 13 activations, not turns, but activations.
Now, just to give our viewers a little bit of a bait, I'm throwing the line out. Our next turn, 9 AM turn, lasts for 24 activations. 12 on each side, and there is so much action. And then the turn after that lasts 22. So we get kind of balls deep into this very quickly.
We did, and I was wondering, these long activations should help me, right? Well, wait a minute. I think they're actually helping the French more because it's giving them more chances to get and press me forward on the areas where I'm weak. And Marc does not hesitate to take advantage of that.
But we'll get into that action on the next video.
Yeah, let's see if there's any more. Do we have any more screenshots here? Let me see.
I think that's the end of the You Win initiative, but we don't need to mention that now.
Okay, well, I just turned it on, so we can leave this on or off. But yeah, winning the initiative is actually kind of crucial in this. Now, the French normally get a -2 to the initiative roll, which is actually, in this case, a lower roll is better than a higher roll. So for the Allies to win the initiative, it's really unusual, not extremely, but unusual enough that you can't really count on it, whereas the French are normally counting on it, but can't 100% count on it, right, Mark?
Yeah,
Would you say?
yeah, true.
Okay.
Very true, yeah. And you grab it, which is really unfortunate for the French in this case, because they're already back-footed.
Right. So I think that ends our intro here. I think it's a good length here of tape. I'm not sure how much exactly.
Mm.
Says 31 minutes, so we had a couple of films here. So I'll put it all together. Any last words here, Mark, before we
Oh,
proceed? We have a lot more
thanks for
turns to
watching, guys.
do.
I hope
Yeah.
this is entertaining. I have no idea. If you're into Napoleonics, if you're into this system, I think it's worth watching this video and the next few, because there's so much action. There's going to be trumpets, there's going to be drums, there's going to be routs, there's going to be lots of swearing from both of us.
We try to keep that to a minimum. I mean, I'm usually the one who's susceptible to a, personal morale check failure more
Yeah.
so than Mark. Mark is like, oh, I rolled a 12. I'm routing. Okay. I'm like, what? How could this happen? This should happen to you, Mark, not to me, right? Okay. So we have our fun. I hope that you like this. Yes, I think two people talking could be more interesting than just one person. Try to get the perspective on both sides, but we had to play quite a few turns to get far enough away from the beginning so that we weren't revealing to each other what our strategies were. So at this point, though, now starting at 9 a.m. and beyond, we're kind of in the thick of it. And there are some strategies going on back and forth even now, uh, as I'm going to find out when I open up Mark's latest moves. But
And we're all
yeah,
trying to do this within the constraints of the original orders, which still can't be changed for another hour. So if either of us make moves that are unexpected, we can't react to them.
mhm,
There's
right,
nothing you can do.
right. Well, Mark, thanks a lot for everything, and we'll do another one of these shortly. I'll try to get this up. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. If you liked it, subscribe, and I appreciate it. If you didn't like it and you watched it all the way to this point, thank you very much. And
Cheers.
see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.